Hey everyone, welcome back to our homeroom and welcome to quarter four. I cannot believe this, but I think pretty much everyone now is into the fourth quarter of the school year. Again, I feel like we just had a fourth quarter from last year, and here we are again. So hopefully you've been enjoying the time and looking forward to some summer time. I know it can be a little tricky with test stress this time of year, but just make sure your kids know that it doesn't really matter how they do on the tests, that they've been giving their all throughout the year, and that that's all that really matters. Be as much as you can, be that cheerleader on the side as they get through it. Obviously, give them their rest and the food that they need, but it's just one test, it's just one grade that they're in. They always have a chance to keep going. So hopefully you can make through this testing season and into summer. Couple announcements for me right now. I am in the process of moving, so this is actually going to be the last episode for this season, but I am planning to be back in the fall, so please make sure to come back and catch my episodes this fall. A second big announcement is my book, The Tame Method, is almost finished. Finally, I have been working on it for about 5 years. It has been written and rewritten and revised and rewritten. I don't know how many times. Finally had an editor work through it. I've had a graphic designer make it look awesome and beautiful and organized and colorful. So now I'm in the final proofread stage. So this book should be ready to go next month, which is super, super exciting. So if you are interested in that, I'm going to be sending out information on pre-order through my newsletter. So if you're not already signed up for my newsletter, please go to my website. A pop-up comes up. You can sign up right there. And I only send a newsletter once a month. It's very short and quick and easy and informative. So sign up there and you'll get notified about the book and pre-order and any sales or deals that I have going on. So as I've been finishing up my book over these past few years, it's all about, yes, how to parent our children, right? How to use what I call the Tame Method to help students feel better, which makes them act better so that everybody's getting along and parents are enjoying parenting and children are enjoying being at home and everybody's successful, all those good things. But what I found over the years is I can actually use the same method on myself to meet my own needs, because as much as it is important, obviously, that our children have their needs met, it is also as important, if not more important, than meeting our own needs. But that can get tricky. We're not really sure how to do that. What does that even mean? So today I'm going to dive into one, it's important that we meet our own needs. Our kids want us to be healthy and happy too, right? It's important. But two, how do we do that? How do we identify what needs we have missing? And then what kind of strategies can we use to help meet our own needs? Because we as adults are responsible for meeting our own needs, but yes, sometimes we have to go to friends or family and ask for some help or support. So I'm going to go into how to do that. So we're going to talk about using my method to identify your missing need, and then I will give you some strategies on some really common missing needs that I see with a lot of us. And so I'll give you those strategies to help you start working on meeting your own needs too, because the more your needs are met, the better you feel, the better you act, and the happier everybody is, including yourself. So it's super, super important. Hopefully this is right at the right time, which is summer, when we tend to have our children home more. There tends to be more demands put on us because of that, with our summer trying to manage vacations and our children home and all the meals and the snacks that have to be made, right? So in all of that, it's really important maybe to take a few minutes every day to make sure you're okay. And I want to make that simpler for you. So let's go ahead and get into it's important to meet your needs too. As I said, it is super important that we as parents meet our own needs. Yes, for the benefit of our children, but also for the benefit of yourself. I am just here to try to remind you it is okay for you to prioritize your happiness too. parenting doesn't have to be giving everything that we've got to our kids. They're okay if you take some space for yourself and time for yourself. They will be okay. In fact, they'll be glad because you'll be happy. And I know as when I was a child, and I know when I hear from kids, they want a nice teacher. They want a nice mom and dad. They want a happy mom and dad. So it's okay and it's very healthy to take care of yourself. So I'm just here to remind you of that, but I want to also make that easier for you. So I'm going to go into how to use my method that we actually use to meet children's needs. I'm going to go over how to use that for ourselves today. So if you're not sure of my method and you've never heard anything about what I've taught, I'm going to give a brief rundown about how we manage our meeting our own needs and what that comes from. So how do you even know you have missing needs? Anytime we see that we are making unhealthy choices or having negative behavior, usually that is because of some negative emotions. Those negative emotions come because we have some kind of need that is not being met. That is it. So when you see yourself having, quote, bad behavior, you're going to stop and go, what emotion could this be coming from? What's the negative emotion that's causing this bad behavior? Now, that bad behavior could look like coping mechanisms. It could look like unhealthy choices regarding food, exercise, things that we know are healthy for us and we're not doing those things. So really, it's just any kind of behavior. It could be the way we're treating other people, right? So how you know if your needs are missing is if your behavior, wherever you're showing up, that your behavior's not as good as you'd like it to be, that's just a signal that, hey, I have some unmet needs. So what I use is what I call the 3 Ps, which is the Tame Method, in order to figure all that out. So first, when you realize that you're misbehaving, you're going to pause. You're going to tell yourself it simply means that I have an unmet need. And then you want to step into what I call a balanced leader parent role for yourself. So when we do it with our children, we bring our energy down, we remember not to take the misbehavior personally, and then we try to keep in mind what's in the best interest for everyone. You are the leader. You are keeping things balanced for everyone. You're balancing yourself and your emotions. You're balancing everyone's needs. You're kind of bringing everything down so that you can look at it from a very more wise perspective. So you want to do that for yourself too. So step into that balanced leader role, and then you're going to look, what is the behavior I've been doing? And what are the feelings that I feel that are causing that behavior? And then you're going to pinpoint the missing need using my handy dandy little cheat sheet chart below. Then once you figure out your missing need, it just comes down to providing some kind of strategy, doing something for yourself to meet that need. Then once the need is met, we stop feeling bad, and which means we stop having bad behavior. So as I have worked with students and parents over the years, I came up with these 6 essential needs as the main needs you have in a relationship between you and your child. However, I have also found that even with myself, these 6 needs are the things that come up the most often. There are hundreds and hundreds of human needs, and I'll put a link below that shares with you a book called Nonviolent Communication, where the author goes into a whole bunch of different needs, how to get your needs met with other people, how to try to work on them yourself. So it's a really great book for adults on meeting our needs. So I'll make sure to link that below. But I have found that just these 6 is a great way to start because it does encompass almost all the problems that we have when it comes to our negative behavior. So this cheat sheet that I've got here shares what the need is, if that need is missing, what misbehaviors and what feelings accompany that need. It may be a little bit different for yourself when it's not a child, but it almost pretty much lines up. So let's talk about connection. If you're feeling disconnected, you may have some attention-seeking behavior because you're feeling annoyed and you're feeling bothered. You might be feeling a little needy because you're being ignored or dismissed a little bit. So if that is the case, then it could be because you're missing connection. If you find yourself hurting others, revenge-seeking behavior, trying to get back at others, it could be silent treatment type things, just being rude back to someone that has hurt you. And that's because you're feeling hurt. You might be feeling disrespected. You might be feeling offended. And that's causing you to hurt seek back, just simply because you're meeting the need of respect. If you are missing the need of encouragement, you could be seeking to avoid everything because you're discouraged, you're hopeless, you're overwhelmed, and you don't feel like you can do anything. So then you just don't want to do anything because you don't feel like you can do it. So those are our belonging needs: connection, respect, and encouragement. But we also have boundary needs. So if you are doing things like rule breaking, you're finding yourself just kind of doing whatever you want to do, not really following the rules, it could be because the rules weren't really established. So maybe somebody else is aggravated at you because you're pushing their boundaries, but you weren't really sure what their boundaries were to begin with. So you might feel irritated or confused by what their boundaries are, because they've either changed them a lot or they haven't communicated them. So if you find yourself that somebody else maybe is complaining about the way you're breaking the rules or overstepping boundaries, it could be because they haven't been clearly established for you. A big one is enforced boundaries. So if you feel limit pushing behavior from someone else, or if you are even pushing your own limits, you might feel just exhausted because you've been doing too much. You might feel exasperated. You might feel if it's someone else stepping on your boundaries, you might feel walked on. So those are all a big signal that you need to enforce some boundaries with either yourself or with someone else. And then reciprocated boundaries, and this is where it gets a little sketchy when it's for ourselves. But if you're finding like this, a big situation would be at work. If you're finding that you're pushing power, you're trying to over control, so your power seeking behavior is coming from a place of feeling angry or challenged, or maybe your boss is making you feel incapable, so you're trying to overpower and over control to prove yourself. That could be because someone else has not reciprocated boundaries for you. They haven't given you enough autonomy or independence. So think through if you're having any misbehaviors that are showing up and see if you can narrow down one of those 6. Again, we have hundreds of needs, but these 6 show up a lot. I know for myself, and I know for other adults that I know. So I thought we'd focus on these today, and I will give you a few strategies of the most common ones. So the ones I see the most in my relationship and in other adults is connection. Connection's a big one when we're not feeling that we're connected to our partner specifically. That can show up. Encouragement is a huge one. I mean, I cannot tell you how every week there's something I'm avoiding doing in some way. So we are often lacking encouragement. And then the big one we're going to talk about for boundaries is enforced boundaries. We're not enforcing many times our own rules and limits or our limits for someone else. So let's talk about those needs, and I'm going to give you a few strategies to help solve that. So hopefully meeting your own needs gets a little bit easier. So it is our responsibility to meet our own needs. However, sometimes the need is something that someone else needs to help us with. So I'm going to go over both. There's a little bit of both in here. So there's some situations where it might be a need that you have to figure out how to meet yourself. But then I'm also going to talk to you about how you can actually go to others and ask for some help meeting your need too. So here are some strategies for some of our common ones, like I mentioned. So connection. Remember, if you're missing connection, you're also attention seeking, and it's because you're usually feeling disconnected. You might be feeling needy, ignored, dismissed. So when you're feeling all those things and you find yourself acting in attention seeking ways, here are 2 ways to help reestablish that connection. So one is to communicate wholeheartedly. What I notice so many times is we get stuck in when we're with a partner or we live with a partner and we're around them all the time. A lot of communication gets very superficial or surface, and we're not actually saying what we really mean. When that happens, you're going to start seeing disconnection because you don't really feel close with that person anymore. You maybe don't feel like you can trust them with your actual thoughts or needs or wants or things like that. So you're keeping them to yourselves, and that's going to start kind of a versus scenario. And once we start getting a versus where it is you versus your partner and you guys are on different teams, then you're going to feel that disconnection. So what you need to be is to do the best that you can to be honest, authentic, and vulnerable with each other. Because if you're not, that connection will break down. And in my experience, it just keeps breaking and it keeps breaking and it keeps breaking, and eventually gets to the point where it's too hard to even reconnect anymore. It's hard to be honest. It's hard to be vulnerable. It may mean you need to do that with a therapist to help you work through that honesty and vulnerability. But if it's just something small, if it's just been a temporary disconnection, really think about what's the honest truth. What is keeping you apart right now? And see if you can find a way to go to that person and just say, hey, I'm feeling really disconnected right now and I don't like the way it feels. Can we talk this out? Can I share what's bothering me? And we can work on this together. Remember, one of the big things I promote in my method is to get on the same team. So you want to look at it, it's you and your partner against the problem of disconnection, not you against your partner. Even if you think my partner's done something wrong, we're going to take that out of the picture because they clearly don't know they've done something wrong or they would fix it. So you're going to try to get in a mindset of you and your partner against this disconnection and just say, this is a problem that I'm having. I'm feeling like this. Can we talk about it and maybe find some ways to reconnect? And as far as ways to reconnect, so a lot of times too, when we've had a partner that we've been together for a really long time, one of the things that brings connection is being interested in what the other person's interested in, getting to know them really well. Well, we've gotten to know them and we feel maybe kind of bored by that, right? So maybe do something different together. So we often think we know each other, but then when you try something new, it can totally reignite curiosity. We can see a different side of our partner that we never saw before. It also just makes us feel, it enlivens us a little bit, even if it's just going to try a food that you've never tried before, going to a restaurant you've never tried and being a little adventurous there. Those kinds of things can bring you together. I've noticed that for myself over the years. So maybe that's something you could talk about when you're talking about the disconnection is, hey, let's try to plan something different and new. I mean, traveling to a new place is also great. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's just a local area you've never been to. So just try to add something different in there because then that ignites the other part of connection, which is getting to know them, being interested in what they're interested in, being curious about them and wanting to know them. So that can help a little bit with that connection. So encouragement is one that usually we work on ourselves. Now we can get some help from other people, but in this case, I'm going to give you tips for how to help yourself if you're finding that you are avoiding things. And like I said, this is very common for me. I have to go through this with myself every week for some reason. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you're lacking confidence in yourself, or you're feeling hopeless that anything will ever change, it's because you need encouragement. So encouragement is support, and you have to support yourself. If we weren't raised getting support from our parents, it makes it very hard for us to know that we can support ourselves. We can encourage ourselves. We may need to be our own biggest cheerleader, even if we were raised with someone not being a cheerleader for us. You have to almost step into being the parent that you wish you had growing up if you didn't have a good relationship with your parents. Be kind to yourself, be supportive of yourself, and give yourself the encouragement you need to push through those feelings. We're all going to have them at some point. But it is okay for you to step in and be that supportive parent for yourself. So 2 ways to give ourselves encouragement. One, for me, a big one is baby steps. Usually what happens is if I'm not feeling confident about anything, or if I don't feel like I can do whatever the task is, it's overwhelming, I find the tiniest little thing that I can do, and I just say to myself, I'm just going to do that. If it feels overwhelming, sometimes it can be something negative like dealing with a health issue, and I don't want to have to go down the rabbit hole. It's like, okay, well, I'm first just going to find a doctor that I could go to without, I'm not even, may even not even reach out to the doctor yet. I'm just going to research the doctor that I'm going to need. Maybe it's baby steps with work situations or just chores around the house or tasks you have to do. If that's the case, you're going to want to break that down by the time it takes. So that's one way to do it. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, this thing is going to take me 3 hours. And then you just sit on the couch because you don't want to take 3 hours. Just tell yourself, you know what? I'm going to work on this thing for 20 minutes and that's all I'm going to do today. Then at the end of that 20 minutes, if you're in the zone and you feel really good, you could keep going. If not, then you're going to tell yourself you're going to pick it back up another day, but you'll feel so much better having done 20 minutes of something rather than nothing. So take it to, again, baby step. You can also break down apart the task. So it could be, let's say if you have to clean the whole house, maybe you just start with the dishes and you're like, today, the only thing that's really bad is the dishes. I'm just going to do that. And usually you'll feel enough relief to take that stress off yourself. Then it may be easier to do one or two more things. But you can break it just down by doing one task. If it's too difficult because you have an expectation set for yourself that's too much, like I used to be like, oh my gosh, people are coming over for this party. I have to clean the whole house. I have this expectation that it needs to be an A plus, baseboards need to be clean and mirrors need to be wiped. And then sometimes I won't do anything because that's too overwhelming. So then I'll stop and go, you know what? These are all my friends and family. I'm going to aim for a B plus instead of an A plus in cleaning. So you can also lower the expectation or the difficulty that you'll need to do to reach that expectation. Another thing, what I have found is if that's still, you can't find anything there. If whatever that arena is that you are overwhelmed by just still feels like too much, pick something else to move in. So one trick I have found is if I can't move in that direction because it just feels too overwhelming, I will find something else I can move in that feels a little bit easier. So for instance, if it's something work related, if I'm going into an office, for instance, with a boss and I can't do much about that job, it's overwhelming the amount of things I have to do for my boss at work, can't really control that. I could go walking and exercise though and eat healthy because I can control that and I can start with a baby step there. So even though that seems unrelated, what I have found is once I start moving in any direction, other things start to move even in areas that are unrelated. So start to take any kind of baby steps. Another way to encourage yourself, kind of still sticking with the baby steps, is find proof of your strengths or your past successes. So when we get in this, I've lost confidence, I don't think I can do it kind of thing, or imposter syndrome, all of those things that can kick in, you may have to actually get on a notebook and write down what your strengths are, or write down your past successes, or write down other times when you didn't think things would change, but they did. Think back to all of that and kind of baby step your way into building yourself up. Again, this is when it's important to be your biggest cheerleader, and it's okay to do that. Step into that balanced leader, that parent that you wish you had growing up. What would that really great parent say to you if you were feeling like, it's hopeless? They would probably give you, yeah, but look, you did this. Remember, you've done this. They would give you those things to help you remember. And then you can write down affirmations, like I am successful because I've done these things. You just want to make sure those affirmations feel good, they resonate and feel true, because if they don't do any good. But do what you can to write down proof of the opposite of what you're thinking. So I can't do this. I'm not good at this. This is never going to change. Write down proof of the opposite. So I'm also going to link down below. I mentioned nonviolent communication. I'm also going to link Byron Katie's book. I can't remember the book, but the book's name, but her work is called The Work. And it is literally a step-by-step guide for managing those negative thoughts. And it has helped me so much in the past. So if you are stuck with negative thoughts and about yourself, and that's what's overwhelming you and keeping you from doing anything, I'll link that book below. She's also got a lot of free resources online, so make sure to check that out. All right, so we're going to move into Boundaries. So this is another common thing that we all struggle with because we were kind of raised to not have boundaries ourselves with our parents. So we grow up and we're not really sure how to enforce boundaries with other people without it being rude or mean or harsh. So let's talk about two kinds of ways that you may need to enforce boundaries. One is you may need to enforce your boundaries with yourself. So if you find that you are limit pushing your own rules that you've set for yourself, you might be feeling out of control or you might be doing things that you know aren't good for you. Here's a couple strategies to manage your own boundaries. We do have to give ourselves boundaries sometimes, just like we have to give ourselves encouragement and build ourselves up and give ourselves that support. We also sometimes have to give ourselves boundaries. So two ways to help that I have found for myself is I often have to reestablish the boundary. I have to remember why I made this rule for myself to begin with. And I have to do I actually really want this rule? Or maybe the rule needs to change a little bit. Maybe it's not working because it's too much or it's not enough. So really think through and reestablish that boundary. Kindly remind yourself of that reason for the rule, and then find the benefit and feel into the benefit. When you can get your feeling involved to what that benefit is, really do some maybe imagining of what it's going to feel like when you follow that rule, why you're going to feel better, why it's healthier, and feel into that. However, I'm going to make a big statement here. Do not punish yourself when you don't follow a boundary. And I'm saying that to myself just as much as I am to you. We were raised many of us were raised with parents who used punishment or harshness when we did something wrong. So we can tend to have that same script for ourselves. So when we break a boundary, we can tend to be really hard on ourselves. Don't punish yourself. It is okay. It is normal to limit push. It is normal. If you have not followed through consistently, you are probably going to keep limit pushing. That is normal. It is normal for all those things. So do not be hard on yourself. But to help establish that boundary and to make it, better and easier for you to follow, you've got to be consistent with following through on that just for a little bit. If I have literally tested this recently, I had a really bad habit of wanting to eat sugary stuff at night, before like 9 o'clock at night. I'd be hungry and I'd want something sweet, and I don't want to do that anymore. It's not healthy. It's not great. So I've had to be consistent. Like literally, the first 3 days is always the hardest, and then about 2 weeks, and then after that, it becomes very easy to be consistent with that rule. So what I have found is if I'm consistent, there's like the inner part of me that's like, oh, I want something sweet at night. If I'm consistently telling that inner part, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that this week. The first 3 days, it doesn't believe me, just like a child, same thing. Doesn't believe me, so it's gonna push the limits, right? I don't know, you said that last week too, but we still had the sweets at 9 o'clock at night. Are you sure? So you want to, no, we're not going to do that. Make it through 3 nights. That's the hardest. That's what I did. And then keep going, keep going, keep going. Eventually that little limit pushing personality stops. And then you don't have it anymore, and then it's way easier. But you've got to be consistent with yourself. Hold that boundary with yourself as much as you can. And then that little inner voice that nags you to do the unhealthy thing eventually believes you and goes away, just like a child. So hopefully that helps, because I know that's a big one for so many of us. And again, don't be harsh on yourself if you mess up, but try to be as consistent as you can. It does get easier. Okay, enforcing boundaries when others are limit pushing our rules. You might feel resentful, exasperated, you might feel walked on. So here are 2 ways to help you enforce boundaries with other people so that you're not feeling so resentful. One is stop overdoing. You'd be amazed at how much, when you sit and think about it, you're probably overdoing for people that didn't need you to do it for them. So let go of tasks that others can do for themselves, even if it means they're doing it imperfectly. If your child can tie their shoe or your child can make breakfast, might be messy, might not be perfect, but they can do it themselves, let them do it. Let go of things that are shoulds, that somewhere along the line, nobody really wants to be doing it anymore, but everybody, for some reason, you feel like you should. Other people are making you feel like you should. If you've got some shoulds in your life, let those go. Let go trying to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect parenting. It's just stressing you out. It's going to make you feel exasperated and resentful and just exhausted and tired. So let go trying to be perfect. And then let go of preventing your child's mistakes. We take this on so much. It is not your responsibility to prevent their mistakes. You want to, in fact, promote mistake making. That is how your child will learn. That is when they get the natural consequence that then makes them stop doing that thing to begin with. So it's okay to let go of preventing your child's mistakes. In fact, it's important for them as well as you. All right. And then the other thing is to communicate and use consequences. Again, as much as we think people understand our boundaries, they might not be communicated very well to the person breaking the boundary. So make sure the boundary and also the consequence for what happens when that boundary is overstepped have both been clearly communicated. And then again, going back to what we need to do for ourselves, you've got to follow through consistently. So if you say no more candy after dinner for your child, also you can't let them have candy after dinner. You slip up one time, then they're going to start limit pushing again. So stick with it as much as you can. The more consistent you are, then they will also stop pushing those boundaries. So one more reminder, it is important to meet your needs. Your children, your partner, everyone in the family benefits when you are healthy and happy too. But then the biggest benefit is you're healthy and happy, and you deserve to be healthy and happy too. Even if that makes other people a little bit uncomfortable, that's okay. They'll get through it. It's better to have discomfort than to build all the resentment or the hurt-seeking behavior or the needy behavior or any of that unhealthy behavior. It's so much better to work on meeting your needs so you feel better than consistently misbehaving. You may have to have an uncomfortable conversation to make that happen, but that is so much better. So let's go ahead into what your homework is for the week. So for homework this week, I'm just going to give you a few more tips on how to start moving towards meeting your own needs. So once you have figured out which need is the priority, of course, you may have 3 or 4 missing needs. You might not be able to go through all of those at once. So pick the one that is causing the most strife in your life. Use that as the priority for now. And then be as honest as you can about what things need to change. Pull your energy down. Find your truth in your belly. What is the truth of the things that need to change? Be honest with yourself. And then if it's something that you have to change for yourself, find a way to ease into that change by, again, taking baby steps toward it, because you may even need encouragement on how to meet your own needs, because this might be new for you. So it's okay, baby step your way into meeting your own needs. What are the things you need to change? If change is too much, which it often is, baby step your way into that change. If it is something that you need your family's help with, or maybe a friend or a coworker or a boss or whatever, plan a time for a discussion when you aren't emotional. Don't do it when you're irritated. Explain how you're feeling from a place of vulnerability and ask for their help. Remember, get in a mindset of your family wants to help you, right? If you all have a loving relationship, they're going to want to help you. So you want to come from this place of, hey, I need your help with this issue I have. Like, even if it's something like, I'm overwhelmed with laundry. I've got way too much laundry to do. Everybody's leaving it all over the floor. I can't get to it. Then you might say, hey, I have this problem with laundry. I'm feeling really overwhelmed by doing all the laundry for everyone. Can I have your help? And then you're going to want to offer your ideas, but also actually maybe allow their ideas first. So let them, does anybody have any ideas? How can I get some help with this laundry situation? And yes, offer your own ideas, but really allow some of their own brainstorming, especially with kids. They love to offer ideas. And then just try something for a week. And then you can just keep reassessing every week to see it until the issue is solved, to see what works. And it may take a couple weeks, but don't give up. Keep following through. You deserve to have the laundry be easier for you to do. And so keep working with everyone in the family until you have a laundry situation that works for you and makes you feel better. And it may be uncomfortable for them because your kids may need to change their behavior, or your partner may need to do some changes. But isn't that better than having a resentful mom? So go into that conversation assuming your family wants to help you and figure out a way to communicate it from that place. The more you meet your needs, the better you feel, the better you have behavior, and you deserve it. So take some time, especially know all this going into the summer, because I know summer it gets a little bit crazy because you've got the kids around all the time. So it can be a little overwhelming. Or you're also managing doing, summer camps and all these things, and it gets a lot. So take some time, really think it through, even if it's just when you're driving to and from work, or take a few minutes, really assess how you're feeling, how you're acting, and be honest with yourself about what needs you need met, and then get those needs met. You'll feel so much better, and then your family's happier too. So, all right, thanks for listening this week. As I said, this is my last one for this season, so I'll be back in the fall. In the meantime, if you want more free content, don't forget to follow or subscribe on Apple or YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can also listen on Apple and vice versa. And then go back. This is episode 26. So there's plenty in the past that you can go back and listen to. Also, there's going to be links below for all my other free stuff. I have an ebook that will be great for actually next school year. It's how to set up your child for success. With five tips on how to do that. I also have a newsletter that goes out every month with usually some kind of free content, an article, or it won't be a podcast for now, but articles. I'm also going to be creating some online courses that you'll be able to work through yourself. So those are going to be coming out. So sign up for my newsletter. That way you're aware of that. And then I also have a blog on my website. So you can go to the website and click on the blog, and there's some articles there. So if you're at a point where you'd like some help, all this sounds good, and you'd love to meet your needs, I can work with you too on meeting your own needs. I don't just need to work with you on parenting your child. So please reach out to me. My email is kristentame@gmail.com. You can also go to my website. You can book a free phone consultation there as well. Well, all right. So enjoy the rest of your school year. Enjoy your summer. Please reach out if you need anything. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next fall. Have a great summer, everyone. Bye-bye.